So let us begin by chanting our Gita verses. If you have them at home, please do join. Om amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshanti rajavam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam atmavinigraha indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam. Now the next few qualities that are discussed by Krishna, they're actually moving more inside, introverted, more spiritual minded qualities now he's going to discuss. We began with something which was very outward, like amanitvam, adambitvam, which involves our interaction with our world, with people in the world. How do we interact? And now Bhagavan is moving more and more within. And he begins with the quality of Atmavinigraha. Very beautiful word, Atmavinigraha. So again, we have to be careful. In the scriptures, Atma is used in many, many different senses. The general sense we know is as consciousness, as the self. So we call it the soul in England. That's in English. That is not the right translation. It is the self or consciousness. Atma we know as that. But in the Shastra, Atma sometimes is used in the sense of the body, mind, sense complex, the human being as well. So in this sense, in this particular place, Atma is not soul. It is not consciousness. It is the individual being, the body, mind, senses. So vinigraha, the other word, is well restraining. It means literally it means controlling, but we don't like that word control. We cannot control things in life. So let us understand it as restraining and managing. So managing what? Managing my body, mind, and senses. Self-mastery is this value. Self-mastery on all levels. Self-mastery on the level of my mind, self-mastery on the level of the body as well. So Atma is not consciousness here. As we said, it is the individual body, mind, senses. It is anything which has the I notion endowed, anything where you invest the I. So we do invest the I in the physical body. How? We say, I am fat, I am thin. All of this is because of what? The I notion is invested in the physical body. So I do take the physical body to be I. And I also take the mind to be I. Why? I say, I'm restless, I'm distracted, I'm sad, I'm happy. That is all the problems of the mind, but that is also lumped on I. So Atma can mean anything where the I is connected as well. So this value talks about transforming oneself into a sattvic personality. Of course, all values talk about that alone. But here we're talking about transparency, tranquility, purity, bringing it to all my interactions, bringing it on a physical level and bringing it on a mental level as well. So this value says you have to be the master of your body, mind, senses, because you have to govern what your body does. You have to govern what your mind does, because antah karana, as we said, the Sanskrit word for mind is antah karana, or the inner instrument. And who is the wielder of the inner instrument? Only you. You are the wielder of the instrument. So mastery of the mind, become a mastermind. Master the senses, become master of the senses. Master the organs of action also, and become master of your own, form as well. The yoga system of sage Patanjali again addresses this. When we're talking about the physical level, the asanas are meant for this. So physical yoga asanas are for mastery of the physical body. Now the pranas, the pranamaya kosha as well. How do I master that? The pranayama techniques as well, breathing techniques are given to master that. Including the breathing techniques are also good for mastering very, very distracted mind as well. So he addresses the pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha with pranayama exercises as well. Pratyahara, he talks about mastery of sense organs. And dhyanam and dharana, these are the next steps. He talks about managing the mind and managing also vijnanamaya, managing the I sense, the egoic sense of I. So this Atmavinigraha. First of all, let's understand very interestingly what the Shastra definition of mind is. You'll be very surprised. The antahkarana, or what is loosely translated into English as mind, is not really only mind in the scriptures. The antahkarana is an instrument. It is a holistic instrument. It is a full instrument, and it has 17 components. A model, one very, very famous model, which comes in a book called Tattva Bodha, which is a book of definitions of words in Vedanta. It gives the components of the mind, antahkarana, the inner instrument. So these are the instruments that we use to achieve anything in life, to act in life. First of all, the 5 organs of knowledge, jnanendriyani, they're called. What are these organs of knowledge? Well, we can see what brings in data from the external world. What are these organs? It is the sense organs. The eyes bring in data of form and color. Ears bring in data of sound. The nose brings in data of smell, the tongue of taste, and the skin of touch. This is how I interact with the external world. This is how I interact with everything. So the sense organs are contained in this Sanskrit idea of inner instrument, the power behind the senses. When we talk about senses, Shastra doesn't mean the golakas or the place where we see the senses. That has no power. That's just a location. It's a location for a power. And where is the power resident? That power is resident in the antahkarana, the inner instrument, within the mind. So the power behind the senses is with you on a subtle level. These ears and eyes and nose are only physical locations for the powers to actually come out of. So there's 5 organs of senses is contained in the antahkarana. Then you have 5 organs of action as well. The power behind the 5 organs of action, karmendriyani. And these 5 organs of action are vak, pani, pada, upasta, payu. So vak is tongue, speech. That's an organ of action. Pani, hands or arms. I act with my hands and I act with my arms. Pada, 2 feet, 2 legs. I walk, I go, they make me move. So they're also organs of actions. Upasta, procreation, procreative organs. Payu, which are excretory organs. These are the organs, karmendriyani, organs of action. They're the exit gates for how I act with the data input that I get from the sense organs. So how beautifully the human being is made. Data entry is through the sense powers. The data exit, how I act, respond to the world, is through the karmendriyani, or the organs of action. But this is not just limited to these 10 components. We have 5 more components of antahkarana. What are these 5 components? These are called the 5 pranas, or the vital airs. These are the vital airs that govern the physiological functions in the human body. So the power, so prana is the power, the intake, breath intake, inspiration, anything that you take in, inspiration. So prana is the first vayu. Then apana is the elimination that governs the vital air that governs elimination of things from the body, like elimination of breath, elimination of anything. Samana governs the digestion, absorption, digestion. Samana is digestion. And udana governs the expulsion of, like vomiting, when you vomit or when you expel something out of the body violently or anything like that. Udana, that breath, governs that. And of course, vyana, which is a circulation. The vital breath governing circulation is called vyana. So now we have 15 components of the Shastra idea of antahkarana, the mind, the 5 jnanendriyanis, organs of knowledge, 5 karmendriyanis, organs of action, and the 5 the pranas, the vital breaths, vital airs as well. And the last 2 components are what we usually understand as mind, manaha. Manaha is actually mind, translated in English as mind, but it's the thinking faculty of a human being. It is the emoting faculty that one has, and it is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. The definition of mind, this mind in Sanskrit is sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. Vritti Atmakam Manaha, which means Sankalpa Vikalpa Atmakam means that which has the nature of fluctuating. It makes a Sankalpa 1 minute, then it changes. Vikalpa, Sankalpa Vikalpa. We all know our mind is like this. 1 minute it will say this, 1 minute that. So the actual Sanskrit definition of mind is that which fluctuates between Sankalpa, definiteness, and Vikalpa, confusion. So if your mind is not like this, you're abnormal, actually. So that is a nice thing to know, that if the mind is like this, then we're actually normal according to our Shastra. That is the nature of the mind to be like that, nature of thoughts. But there's another thing, another faculty which governs this manaha. That is the beauty of this model of the mind. There's another faculty which manages this manaha, the thinking, this emoting aspect, which is the intellect, Buddhi. Buddhi is the 17th component of the Antahkarana given in the Shastra. This Buddhi is the decision-making capacity of a human being, the intellect, the rational capacity, which knows, discerns the right from wrong, what is the best thing to do, the one that can really make you in life. So the Buddhi is what a spiritual aspirant needs to make function more than the manaha. The manaha aspect of our life will take us for a ride. If we always go with the mind, that type of fancies, run after the fancies, likes and dislikes, run after my emotions, react emotionally for everything. If we live that type of life, it is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to create a lot of unhappiness for our lives. So that is why Shastra always says, let the Buddhi rule your life. Bring that intellect in, that decision-making, that rational capacity. And there's a beautiful imagery that is given in our scriptures for this, which is the Lord Krishna, actually Bhagavan, the chariot imagery. It comes in Kathopanishad. It is also, seen in the Bhagavad Gita, the symbolism of Bhagavan driving the chariot. He is a Sanatana Sarathi, the eternal driver of the chariot. What does that mean? So the 5 horses, if you see, there are 5 white horses. They are the 5 senses. The 5 senses which are being held on the reins. What manages the senses? The mind behind the senses is the reins. So the reins are the mind in that imagery. And who is holding the reins? Bhagavan is holding the reins. Krishna, he is the Buddhi. He is our conscience. He is our intellect. He is there, very much there, guiding the mind, and which in turn, it manages the senses. So our horses don't go in all 5 different directions. Life will be very difficult if we don't have a management of the reins of the mind. That is why that imagery, what it represents is that you let Bhagavan take charge of the life. Let Bhagavan manage the mind. Give him control of your life. He is very much there in the Buddhi, as the Buddhi, and that is what it means. And the Jiva Swami, Arjuna sitting in the chariot, the individual egoic self, Arjuna, is being taken by Bhagavan, in the direction that Bhagavan feels is good for that particular Jiva. So it's a very beautiful imagery given in the Shastra, that the intellect is so important. He is the driver. The driver is the Buddhi. And that is the only way I can master this Antahkarana, these instruments that are given to me. So give the reins of the mind over to the Lord. That's what this imagery says. So Vinigraha, again, is understanding, mastering the ways of your mind. So body is quite easy to be mastered. It's, again, the mind mastery is always what we have problem with. Even body, sometimes we have to watch if you bring this value into your life, unnecessary movement of the body. If I'm sitting listening to someone, suddenly my leg is going up and down, fidgeting here and there, cannot sit still. That is all not a sign of mastery. Mastery means if I want to sit still, if I want to meditate, then everything calms down. I have that capacity to calm down the body and to sit still for a length of time as well. So this is the body mastery. Now, mental mastery, we've seen again and again in many of the values, but in this particular value, it talks about watching the patterns of your thinking. So sometimes we know emotions can be more powerful than our understanding. They dictate the terms in our lives. sadness, anger, all these negative emotions. They are not bad. They are not bad. Even all the avatars had emotions, if you see in the Shastra, all the stories of the avatars, when Lord Rama lost Sita, when she was abducted, he cried. If you read Valmiki Ramayana, he wept for her. He cried. He showed sorrow. Emotions are not bad. Lord Shiva grieved when Sati died. Hanuman got depressed when he couldn't find Sita in Lanka. So all great personalities in the Shastra had emotions. There's nothing to, no problem with emotion at all. We should not feel, oh, we're emotional. I'm an emotional person. I cry. No, nothing wrong at all. But what Atmavinigraha is saying is that one has to learn to manage one's emotions. I don't let my emotions take me for a ride. Suddenly, if I get very emotional, it's like having a sickness or illness. Do I blame myself for getting sick? I don't accuse myself or blame myself for getting sick. If I get a headache, do I keep saying, why do I have a headache? I shouldn't be having a headache. Why do I have it? I don't keep criticizing my headache. So it is natural, very natural, and it's also natural to want to get rid of it. But this is what Atmavinigraha says, don't need to get rid of any emotion. That is the amazing thing. Welcome all emotion, positive or negative. It is all Bhagwan's order unfolding for you. And when you welcome it, you don't resist it. You'll find there's less pain, actually, less sorrow, because you develop more space in that acceptance. Yes, this is how my mind is right now. Right now, I am unhappy. I am low. I'm feeling low. Once you accept it, you can handle it much better. When you want to get rid of it, that becomes another issue. Because whenever anything negative comes, the first thing is, I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it. No, that thinking itself will stop action being taken. So Shastra actually gives the remedy. We welcome everything, all emotions that the mind has, welcome it. Say, yes, admit, I am like this. I'm feeling like this right now. It's fine. It is all part of an order. But how do I deal with it? That is what we are talking about here. How do we deal with headaches? Yeah, maybe we take a paracetamol or something with a normal regular headache. But here, what do we do? It is understanding the ways of the mind. This is the way. Understanding the ways of the mind brings in certain 3 obstacles that Shastra talks about, mental obstacles, which are obstacles to self-knowledge. And this helps answering one question that was asked last week about vikshepa. One of the obstacles that Shastra says, vikshepa is an obstacle. So 3, mala, vikshepa, and avarana are 3 obstacles in the mind. These are obstacles in spiritual life as well. They're like diseases which frequently afflict the antakarana, and many times they hinder our spiritual development. So what are these? So mala is the main one that we deal with. All the mental impurities. We've seen these in Shaucham, the value of Shaucham. We've seen it in a few values. Mental impurities, but these are mainly due to raga and dvesha, to intense likes and dislikes. So mental impurities come from them. And this is accumulated. It's like the mind is like a beautiful, clear mirror. That is how everybody is born, pristine, pure, clean mirror. But what happens? As we go through life experiences, dirt sticks on that mirror and we don't keep cleaning it. That's why, previous value, this cleaning, constant cleaning, daily cleaning of the mirror is very important. Then I keep the mirror clean. I don't hold on to grudges. What is cleaning the mirror? I don't hold on to past. Whatever has happened, I let go, move on. That is my mantra in life. Let go, move on. So here, cleaning mala. Mala is this accumulated dirt of this life, but also of previous lives. We don't only bring in dirt from this life, we bring from previous lives as well. And these are the imprint of actions that we have done, which have led to hurt and guilt. And these are stuck in antakarana. These are stuck as impurities, like dust on that pure mirror. So every day, and they're stored in the chitta aspect of the mind, which is the memory aspect. So every day we have to learn to watch these kama meaning intense desire, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, delusion, mada, pride, matsarya, jealousy. And how do we get rid of these? Or how do we manage them? Not get rid of them. We cannot get rid of them totally. How do we manage them? That is where, again, to remove mala in our life, the best recommended thing that Shastra gives is karma yoga, seva, seva, seva. Seva is the best way to purify the mind. That is why Swami always emphasized life of service. However long we have breath in our body, it is for our sake that we're serving. We continue to serve because it is helping our spiritual growth. Service is so important for Antahkarana Shuddhi. And to remove the mala, also satsanga is very important. Keeping good company, keeping the company of good people, mantra, prayer, all of these invoke Ishvara's grace, Bhagwan's grace in life to keep the mirror pure and clean. So these have to be definitely, you have to use your free will to pursue these practices to make sure, if you want that spiritual success, we have to make sure on a day-to-day basis we pursue this lifestyle as well. And it is not overnight, it's going to change. This is persistent, prolonged practice that we need. Swami often used to call people Bangaru. You know what Bangaru? When people said Bangaru means gold in Telugu. And what happens to gold? Raw gold, to be converted to pure gold, has to be melted, beaten, all the impurities have to be removed. It is not so easy. So it is only constant practice over a long period of time that these impurities can be removed, but they can go. And if the sincerity is there, it can be done. So this is the first obstacle to spiritual growth. The second obstacle to spiritual growth is vikshepa. Vikshepa is what was brought up last time, but vikshepa is also a problem. Even if the mind has a relative purity, there are still possibilities of it getting distracted. These are internal. Vikshepa means internal mental, all these mental distractions and disturbances that come, like turbulent waves of thoughts rising and falling in the ocean of consciousness. The ocean of consciousness is very still. The depth of consciousness, when you go deep into the ocean, there's no movement, is there? It is totally still, quiet, peaceful. That is what inside really our true essence is, that peace, quiet, stillness. But what happens on the surface? All those waves, turbulent waves, sometimes tsunamis, sometimes small breakers, sometimes just still. So all of this is happening. This is called vikshepa. Vikshepa is this obstruction that comes due to the constant wavering of the mind. And how do we manage? What is the solution to managing this waveredness of the mind? So certain spiritual practices are advocated in the scriptures to manage this vikshepa. Vikshepa is removed primarily by upasana. Upasana is certain practice of meditation, of focusing on a deity, taking an Ishta Devata, some form that one feels drawn to, and focusing on that, practicing meditative practices on that form, and that helps manage the mind. That is number one technique for this Vikshepa Shakti, which can be an incredible problem. Pranayama, as I also said, pranayama is an excellent tool to also breathing techniques, because in Yoga Shastra, the breath is very much connected to your thoughts. If you notice as well, when you get very angry, what happens to your breathing? The breathing becomes faster and faster. And when you get very, emotional in any sense, breathing becomes faster and faster. Why? Because breath is connected to thoughts. So it is very, very interesting. If you manage your breath, you can control your breath, you can control your thoughts as well. Your thoughts will also subside, become less. And this vikshepa, this distracted mind will become calmer and calmer. That is why japa becomes very important. Taking up a mantra, the constant repetition of a mantra gives this, it's an energy, it's a energy that's produced in the mind. The thoughts, they resolve as well. So this is very important to manage the waveredness of the mind. Upasana is a very, very important thing. And the vikshepa also means, there is another understanding of vikshepa in the Shastra. Vikshepa also means projection of your own mind externally. So that is because I don't know the truth. I see only from my limited vision. So my projections are based on the data I have or what I understand. So it is called Jiva Shrishti as well, Vikshepa Shakti, Jiva Shrishti, which means my own projection on the world that is. And this is for many, many times, this is the problems for our sorrow and our unhappiness. I think somebody is thinking this about me, or I think somebody is thinking this way. Do we really know how other people are thinking? We don't. We project. I think this situation looks like this. If I see a situation, my interpretation is in a certain way. Somebody else's interpretation can be in a totally different way. How does that work? So it is Vikshepa. This Vikshepa of each individual can vary. That Vikshepa is dependent on the background, dependent on my vasanas, dependent on how I see the world. So as you know, that famous saying, some people, when they look at a glass with water, some people say it's half empty, half full. You can look at it as half empty, you can look at it as half full. What will you look at it as? It is Vikshepa Shakti that governs how you see the world. So it is two things. Vikshepa is source of distraction. That is one understanding of Vikshepa. Another understanding is that it is your projective power, your power of projection onto the world, how you interpret people, how you interpret situations in life. So we can see everything. That is why Swami says, if we change, we can see everything as grace. Everything, if we see as prasadam. What is karma yoga? Eventually, it is your attitude in life. You're doing exactly the same things. You're living in the same situations. You're facing the same problems. But what makes a difference in karma yoga? It is your attitude, how you take life, how you take the situations, the prasadam Bhagavan is giving you. And that is when you manage your Vikshepa. So it is very, very interesting, this Vikshepa Shakti, when more and more Ishvara, Bhagavan I bring into my life, the less and less subjectivity there is. And I see things as they are. I see things as prasadam. So Vikshepa is the second obstacle that can be removed primarily by upasana, japa, all of these techniques. And the last obstacle to spiritual success is avarana. Avarana is the curtain of not knowing. It clouds us from our true nature of consciousness, of Atma. So it's avarana Shakti also. How is it removed? What is the antidote for avarana? Of course, the antidote for ignorance can only be knowledge. There's no other antidote. You cannot remove ignorance by standing on your head for 3 hours or doing any other technique. The only way to remove ignorance is the opposite, which is knowledge. So avarana, the final obstacle in the spiritual life, avarana is removed through study of Vedantic literature and listening, constant shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam is the technique, the listening to the words of Vedanta, the Shastra, that removes the ignorance of the self. What you take yourself to be, finally you start saying, I'm not what I think I am. I'm much more than that. I'm not as limited by this body, mind, senses. I'm much more than this. And that should be the knowledge that one assimilates. So the Atmavinigraha, very beautiful value. It's called many things in different texts. And Tattva Bodha, again, that text of definition, the Atmavinigraha is called samadhanam there, or chittai grata. Chittai grata means one-pointedness focus, and it's a quality that comes, over a practice, a period of practice. One has to learn to practice. And another obstacle that stands in the way of getting this focus is, again, our past. Past becomes a very big obstacle as well to gaining this quality, Atmavinigraha, because we hang on to what has happened to us in the past. The past binds us in many, many areas, actually. So more understanding of the past, more forgiving myself and forgiving others in the past for what they have done and what I have also done. This is how I'm going to develop more of the focus in the present, because the past always hangs over in the present, either past hangover or future. Our mind is always flitting between past and future, but generally the past prevents us from moving on in the present as well, because memories come back. So how do I get over this past memories of hurt and guilt and all of these? I have to first admit, this has happened. This is the acknowledgement. This situation I did go through. This is what I had to face. And the mind has its own logic. It has its own psychology within the order of Ishvara. But Atmavinigraha teaches me to pay attention to the ways of the mind. Certain ways of thinking are not good for me. I have to see that again and again. By hanging on to grudges from the past, hanging on to hurts from the past, how am I helping myself in the present? I have to keep seeing that again and again. Does it help me to grow? No. That is why I may not be able to forget, but I can forgive. Forgive and forget. The forgetting part doesn't work because the incident is always registered. We cannot just forget incidents that have happened to us in our past. Very, very difficult. Unless you have amnesia or dementia, you cannot. It's not possible, but I can forgive. Forgive means what? The emotion attached to those past incidences, I learn to let go. It's the emotion that creates the problem. When I bring that incident into my mind from the past, the emotion immediately becomes attached to it, and then I suffer in the present. You have to notice this for yourself. We create our own suffering in the present moment because we're not able to let go of emotion from the past. So this is where Atmavinigraha becomes very important. I have to process that emotion. I have to let go of that emotion to make the mind more inward and more focused. This is the only way I can grow. And how do I do it? And this is where Bhagavan becomes so important. I have to resolve everything at his lap, at the altar of Bhagavan. Whatever has happened to me, whatever experiences I have gone through have been part of an order unfolding in my life. I could not have gone through something different. That is the biggest fact we have to accept. All of the past that every one of us have gone through, all these experiences have been Bhagavan's prasadam for us. However unpleasant they've been, whatever emotions we felt, it has been a learning lesson. If I take it as a lesson and I learn and grow, then I'm fine. So when Bhagavan is brought in, I can make amends with everybody. It is not the person who has really hurt me. The person is only instrumental in me living out my karma. We have to see this again and again. Everybody is just instrumental for me to work out my karma. Now, some people help me to work out punya karma. Punya karma means I like to be in their presence because they give me joy. Right? Some people are like that. So that means punya as well. Someone once said very, very nice saying, funny saying, some people give happiness wherever they go. Some people give happiness wherever they go. And the next part of the saying is some people give happiness whenever they go. So it's just a change. So whenever they go, they give happiness, or wherever they go, they give happiness. So we may have people who give us happiness whenever they leave. But what I'm saying is that if they give that type of happiness, they're removing our papa. If we see life like that, whoever gives us unhappiness is helping me exhaust my papa karma. Whoever gives me happiness in life is helping me exhaust punya. This is what life is about, exhaustion of papa and punya alone. So Atmavinigraha is making amends with my past so I can live focused life in the present. It talks about this very beautifully. Shastra says this value moves your thinking from mechanical, which is constant, useless rumination over things, mechanical thinking, impulsive thinking, which means thought comes and you act without thinking of the consequences. Two types of thinking we have, mechanical, impulsive. Atmavinigraha means coming out of these two types of thinking to becoming deliberate in my life. Think before you act. Weigh up situation before you take decision. Deliberate thinking. And finally, a jnani, a wise person, an enlightened person will have spontaneous thinking. That is the height of thought. A wise person alone has spontaneous thinking, which means that every moment they just live in the order of Ishvara. Whatever their actions, whatever their thoughts come, there's no ego there. So they're acting out Bhagavan's wish, Bhagavan's order as well. So this is called self-mastery, moving from this type of lower thinking to deliberate thought in life. So again, this control in life, controlling my thoughts, it doesn't work. We cannot control our thoughts, but the way we can manage our thoughts is recognizing Ishvara again in the form of order in my life, recognizing Ishvara in the form of my psychology. Psychological order is nothing but Bhagavan. So nothing is, or no one is to blame for anything that has happened to me, because we cannot escape the law of karma. Everybody has to go through whatever they have to go through, and nobody is to blame for somebody else's sorrow. This is what we have to realize. Once we realize this in our life, so much stress and anxiety and strain can be avoided as well. There's a very, very interesting saying in Sanskrit, which says, Shayanam chanushetehi tishtantam chanutishtati anudhavati dhavantam karma purva kritam naram, which means the karma of previous deeds sleeps along with the person who sleeps. The karma of previous deeds sits along with the one who is awake. The karma of previous deeds runs along with the one who runs, which means what? You cannot escape your karma. Whatever you're doing, it will always follow you in the form of a person, in the form of a situation, in the form of anything, of an illness, anything. That is karma only that we are living out. So how do I live out my karma? Accept. This is the biggest thing with Atmavinigraha. Accept situations, accept my mind, body, senses as they are, and resolve everything in Ishvara's order. Everything has been in order. It is in order. It will continue to be in order. Maybe not the order I think it should be in, but it is in Bhagavan's order. When I accept like this in my life, I can start using the mind as I wish it to be used. I start becoming master of my mind. It doesn't become my master and I its slave. The mind should be my slave and I should be the master. Atmavinigraha means making the mind the master and living my life to the fullest, living my life without pain of the past or worry for the future, and managing all those patterns of thinking that keep me down, like mala, vikshepa, and of course avarana. These are the three main obstacles of this mind. So this is Atmavinigraha. And also one last point which is brought in with Atmavinigraha is also the point about judgment. Being non-judgmental is also Atmavinigraha. Being non-judgmental first means not making judgments about myself. No reason to judge myself. I can see myself. That's different. Judging and seeing is different. No judgment about one's own self. If I stop judging myself, automatically you'll see you'll stop judging others. It's because we are very critical over ourselves that we are critical over others. So this is Atmavinigraha. Don't judge yourself unfavorably at any moment. This is the way you are. This is according to the order of Ishvara. You cannot be different. But if there's changes to be made, you can make changes because some thinking patterns are not good for you. So you have to deal with issues of the mind because the instrument has to be made pure and clear, but you have to do it very objectively. As I've said before, it is like getting a car fixed. Your mind is not you. If you think it's you, then all the problems of the mind become your problems. This is where all our sorrow starts. But Shastra says very clearly, mind is objectified by you. It is an antakarana instrument. Get the instrument fixed. Atmavinigraha. You are the master of the instrument. You are not the instrument. You are the wielder of the instrument. You are not the instrument. So all it is saying is that you fix the instrument, make it pure, make it clear. Then Atma is reflected. Atma always shining. It is self-shining, self-evident, self-revealing, pure consciousness. Your own Swarupa is that, limitlessness, what you want to be. Everything you seek in life is what you already are, but you cannot see it. And the way to see it is by making the mirror clean. And then you don't have to make any effort. The self shines by itself. So whole of life is actually cleaning that mirror, and Atmavinigraha, another value of cleaning.